Hi there, everyone. This is Martin Hoxie from the Association for Learning Technology, and welcome to our ALT community call. And I'm delighted to be joined by Shirley Evans, who is a trustee of the association. And given that the nominations are open for trustees, we thought it would be a nice idea just to give you a little bit of insight to being a trustee of ALT. So, hi Shirley, how are you? Shirley, your microphone just seems to be muted right now. There we go.
Sorry about that. I'd turned off my camera because of the connectivity. Thank you very much for inviting me today to talk about my experiences of ALT and a trustee as well. So I'm looking forward
So,
to that very much.
but before we go into that, Shirley, I wonder if you could, for people not familiar with you, just a bit of background about yourself, where you currently work and your areas of interest.
Well, where I currently work is very different to where I started off 15 years ago when I first got involved with ALT. At the moment, I'm employed as a senior research fellow for dementia studies at the University of Worcester, and so I carry out research into dementia care. And I also do some research. I have an interest in technology and dementia, and I'm also very interested in people with dementia as learners and the use of technology. I also work at the Open University, where I'm a associate lecturer, and I do some research there into older people and designing online learning for older people. So that's where I am now.
And in terms of your obviously ALT is a membership organization. Have you been a member of ALT for that long?
Well, I first became involved with ALT some 15 years ago when I first started doing some research into virtual learning environments and accessibility. At that time, I was working in the field of e-learning and blindness, and I worked at the Royal National College for the Blind in Hereford. And we were very interested then in investigating virtual learning environments. They were not particularly accessible at the time, and there are also quite a lot of them around. Quite quickly, they sort of reduced in the field to about 4 or 5 main players. But at that time, there were around 120 on the market, so it was quite interesting. So when I wanted to started looking around and who I should be talking to about this, one of the first organizations that came up in was ALT, and so went to one of their conferences, and it was fantastic because obviously there everybody was talking about VLEs and the like, and I made some absolutely brilliant contacts and made a lot of progress with a sort of with the research, but as well as actually finding solutions to implementing VLEs with people with particular needs.
Hmm. It's it, it it it's it's quite a familiar story. It seems that a lot of people seem to enter the association through the annual conference. It seems quite a common touch point. How about so moving into becoming a trustee of ALT? So was there a particular set of events that led you to becoming a trustee, or um,
Um, I guess it was something that sort of it sort of happened and as a sort of natural progress. I mean, I was talking about when I first sort of came into contact with ALT, which was just about 1999, and then I'd had a bit of a change of job role, and went into senior management, which doesn't mean to say at all that I wouldn't be interested in alt, but it took me away from that hands-on technology and everyday use of technology. So I still sort of carried on and occasionally would dip in and dip out. But in 2009, so some 10 years later, I had a change of job role and went to independently as a consultant in the area of inclusion and the use of technology. But at that time as well, I did my CMALT certified membership for the Association for Learning Technology, and I did that quite quickly because I had that space then, and I did in about, took a couple of days and then got that done. And so that sort of set me on the pathway of alt again, and I sort of became more involved in it, started attending different events, going back to the annual conference, which I sort of did straight away, and then was very interested in joining one of the committees, which I did, and I joined the membership development committee, and I was sat on that for a couple of years. Then I became vice chair of the committee, and then I became chair, and as part of that role then I became a trustee. So it sort of was it emerged really, but it seemed really the right thing to do, because as I was sort of moving through those roles and understanding more about alt and becoming, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Shirley, you've just muted yourself there. That's better. Oh, and we lost you again. You seem to be muted still, Shirley.
Am I
There we
muted
go.
now? Right.
No. Yeah.
I'm not doing anything, so I don't by the power of thought. I became more understanding of the role of alt, and understanding of how much of a community alt really is, and I started developing sort of a different skills, I guess, and of chairing committees, which I'd done in my job role, but then it's different when you're chairing groups and committees with people from different organizations and such like, and you get those different insights, and you learn so much from everybody else. So that's how I came to be a trustee, really. It sort of evolved.
It's quite we were just talking before the call, and I was mentioning the fact, you know, I've been a member of alt for a number of years as well before joining the staff team, and I think it's quite, you know, from my personal experience, it's quite easy to get that alt is a membership organization that is driven by its members, and you know, and you've illustrated wonderfully there, you know, your pathway of joining committees, you know, creating the direction of the association, and becoming a trustee. And I think that's something that's often forgotten, that trustees are, by alt's governance, actually alt members. They have to be alt members for at least a year before they can be a trustee. Is there, so you've talked about some of the things that you've gained from joining some of the alt and leading some of the alt committees. Is just for people not familiar with a trustee role within a charity, can you give a sense of some of the things that you do as an alt trustee?
Yes, I mean, I've had, as a trustee, I've had different roles. I mean, I started off as chair of the membership development committee, so that was clearly one of the things you do is chairing the meetings, and that can be interesting and challenging. And there's particularly when you move from sort of the face-to-face arena, we have they still have some of the meetings that are online in a webinar, and that's also very interesting. And then working with the group, with the committee, and also working alongside the other trustees, looking at the strategy and working on the ALT strategy, and looking at what the committee is, its own work, and how that fits in with what the strategy is doing, and then sort of help, and then recognizing within members of that committee what their strengths are and how that they can support the strategy, but most of all, I guess, support the community as well. Since I been no longer chair of the Membership Development Committee, because I do that for a certain number of years, I'm now honorary secretary, and one of my main focuses is on the sea malt development, really. So I do quite a lot of work with sea malt. I've been involved in helping develop the CPD, continuing aspect of it, where it's sea malt's updated every 3 years. I've talked to other organisations about their own types of accreditation, and I had a very one particular memorable meeting I had was on Park Lane in a very grand hotel there with a group of very distinguished academics. I think I was probably the only one there who wasn't a professor, and talking, very proud to talk about about ALT and talk about its sea malt scheme, which is absolutely great in the way that it recognises people's experience and expertise, but the actual framework is really quite simple in its own way. So it's a thing for us to be very, very proud of as well. Other things I've done, for example, just played quite a key role in looking at the different regional groups. So there's a couple of gaps where ALT does not have a regional group. One notably was the West Midlands, which is my own area here. So most recently we've implemented the West Midlands Region Learning Technology Group. So that's absolutely fantastic. They now have a steering group and they're up and running, and plan to be doing that very soon in the South and Southwest. So with that sort of skills that I've learned, I can help go in and just sort of advise. You've got the resources there as well, and just yeah, just help ALT to expand its community.
I think if I was anyone considering being a trustee, hearing all the wonderful things that you've listed there, one of my concerns would be, how much time does it actually take to be a trustee?
Right. I mean, that absolutely varies, and there's times, everybody recognizes ALT and is a very supportive community, and I think it recognizes that some people have at certain times in your life, we might have pressures all the time, but sometimes you have more pressures than others. So if you say, well, look, at this time I'm going to be tied up doing this, so it's going to be very difficult for me to be involved in something, then that's understood as well. And I think it's about maximizing your strengths and experience. So it might sound like a big thing to set up a regional group, but in fact it's building on my own strengths. So in a way it's not exactly hugely time consuming, and then having sort of learned that, done it, then to maximize or optimize that by sort of doing it again where it was well. So I think that it's very difficult to say, well, how many hours a week is this going to take you? I would say some weeks it doesn't take me any time at all, and there might be other times when I've got a bit of leeway and I think, oh yeah, I've got some space, I can do 2 or 3 hours and do this, or I attend a meeting quarterly. So that's what my answer would be with that.
And you've touched upon some of the areas that you've gained from being a trustee. Just prior to being a trustee of ALT, did you have any other experience? So really, what kind of experience do you need to be a trustee of ALT, or do you think that you don't really, as long as you're established and interested in learning technology, that's all you really need to bring?
I think it's certainly one of the things I wrote down. I think what you need to bring, I didn't have experience of being a trustee, but I
Mm-hmm.
was able to build up some of that, some experience from working with Inside ALT for a while. But it's yeah, it's that real interest in learning technology and the interplay between them, and it's more than an interest. I think it's a passion and a real feeling for the impact
Mm-hmm.
that can make. And I think also, yeah, the the where yeah, the capacity and the flexibility to recognize other people's strengths and to learn from other people, I think is really, really important as well. That was one of the key aspects, and very good sort of leadership skills in
Mm-hmm.
terms of identifying and implementing. And it might not be you that does that, but being part of that,
Yeah.
in implementing ideas and solutions, and yeah, it could be pragmatic ideas and solutions, it could be strategic ideas and solutions, and working with colleagues to take that forward to the benefit of the community. Yeah.
And you've touched upon some of the things that you've gained from the role in terms of opportunity to connect and speak to the community. Is there anything else from the role that you've gained?
Yes, absolutely. One of the key things that I didn't know a huge amount or anything about being a trustee of an organisation, apart from what I'd seen from being on the committee, but otherwise not had that experience. And
Mm-hmm.
now that I've have that experience and expertise, I feel that I've gained from the role. I have the confidence and knowledge to take that forward into other areas. And so, for example, I'm thinking of my local community, and perhaps in the future, I've been looking at some opportunities or need there, and I wouldn't have, it doesn't faze me at all to think about, even setting up an organisation, a charity or such like, and taking it forward. So that's something that I would have not even really understood or appreciated where I needed to go for all that information and such like now. And now I feel that I could do it, or even if it wasn't myself, I could support somebody else to do that. So that is a huge thing that I've gained from being
Mm-hmm.
a trustee for myself.
Is your employer supportive of you being an alt trustee? Do they see a benefit in allowing you to do this, or is that something very separate?
No, no. My employer sees it is a real benefit, because I bring back the skills, obviously, that I've learned. I bring back a huge amount of networking, of understanding about the sort of wider role of technology, which is not necessarily something that we have within most
Mm-hmm.
local area of organisation as well. So for them, it's of huge benefit. And I think that for me as an employee, it just gives me a huge, a much wider range of skills and
Mm-hmm.
expertise. And if I were employing somebody and I knew somebody was doing this and being a trustee, particularly of an organisation of ALT, I would think that's absolutely fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Have you got any standout moments, not just of being a trustee, but of your involvement with alt?
Of my, yeah, standout moments. I've mentioned a couple of um, initiatives that I've sort of helped implement, and I mentioned particularly sort of one visit that I'd made. But I think really the standout moment for me is every year going to the annual conference and thinking, wow. And seriously, you know, when I changed my job role in 2009, well, I had to change my job role. It was quite a difficult time with me, and I went to the annual conference, and it was great to meet up with colleagues. And to be honest, I'm not saying this is always the case, but actually, I was I felt I felt part of a community. I felt sort of worthwhile again, and actually I got some work there, so it's down to be good. Yeah, it was all good. So yeah, the annual conference every year is a standout moment, and it seems to just get better every year. It's brilliant, a brilliant sense of community. I'm very, very proud to be a part of ALT and to be a trustee and part of its journey.
And do you get an extra sense of pride walking around as an alt trustee at the alt conference?
Oh, crikey. I don't know.
Is there a green room? Is there is there lots of blue M&Ms somewhere?
Yeah, there is. No, it's great. Well, no, there aren't blue M&Ms, but there's some really nice sweets on the alt stand, which I always get to dip into, especially the refreshers. They're my favourite.
Well, Shirley, thanks very much for your time. And just to remind viewers that the call for nominations is open. So the closing date is Friday, the 10th of June. So if you'd like Shirley to take a more active role within ALT's governance, then there's an opportunity. This is obviously an annual call for trustees. So even if this year it doesn't sound like something you want to do, then keep it in mind for future years and start those conversations. Start joining on the alt committees and getting a better sense of what's going on. And I suppose the other breaking news to just remind people is that the Alt Learning Technologist of the Year awards have just been announced this morning. So have you had much to do with the LT awards, Shirley?
Learning Technology Technologist of the Year award was involved with that about 3 years ago, and an initiative that a nominated initiative that I was familiar with from the area of disability did really well in that. So, but otherwise, but it's always a great thing, and I loved going to see the presentations at the ALT conference as well, and to see what the very different sort of learning and teaching sort of solutions that come forward. Yeah, it's just absolutely great.
Well, the awards, which are in their 10th year now, are open. So there's something else that you can do if you don't want to do a nomination for a trustee. You can apply for the awards as well. So Shirley, thank you very much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and hopefully everyone's got a sense of what it's like to be an alt trustee. And again, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. It's been great talking to you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.